Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast episode. Today's guest is a specialist in the field of communications. But before we let her get into the nitty-gritty of all the things you need to know about this field, I just wanted to let you guys know that How To University has recently launched a course designed to teach incoming and current university students everything they need to know about degree in the field of communications and careers. So if you're interested in this field and you want to know what is required for you to get into a communications program, what you would actually learn in a communications degree, and what jobs you can get with this degree, head over to our website, make a free account, and take the course. Now, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends so we can continue to bring you great content. And without further ado, let's get into the podcast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric, and Nikki and I will be co-hosting today's podcast on communications. Today, we're having a lovely guest, Madison Penner, working on brand communications at Sportchek. So Madison, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we dive into any questions for any of the people watching, I was hoping you could maybe tell us what you do and maybe anything you'd like to quickly share.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for asking me to come on. Like Eric mentioned, my name's Madison. I attended the University of Calgary for a bachelor's degree in communications and a minor in sociology. My current role that I love, I am a brand communications advisor with Sportchek, but it's all under the Canadian Tire banner. So they have a ton of brands that I'm sure every Canadian knows. Canadian Tire, Marks, Atmosphere, Sportchek, Party City is new, and then they have a ton of owned brands as well within the stores. And I'm currently, I work on the PR team, which is pretty fun. So external communications. I work a lot in influencer marketing. I get my hand in, those sponsored content that you see on TikTok or Instagram, or just pretty much anytime I think you're scrolling on your phone and you're seeing some Sportchek on your feed, that's probably my team had a hand in that. Again,
That's
thanks
so
for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you guys about communications.
I guess from there, we can talk about like what positions you did get from there. So starting with the most recent one from Sportchek, what are some of the projects you've had a chance to work on?
Retail moves very fast. So even though it's summer, I'm already talking about back to school and Christmas. Those are kind of the big ones in retail. So
wait, don't skip summer.
So early.
Right? It's like
Don't
already
skip
past.
summer. Yeah.
Summer's like done in retail early spring. Like
That's good to know. That's good to know. Wow. Okay. Understood.
So if you are looking to get into the retail space, you really work fast and you juggle multiple projects at once. So I'd say my big focuses are definitely working in back to school and Christmas, as in retail. Those are the big ones. Those are our Super Bowl. And with that, I do, like I said previously, a lot of influencer marketing. So it's kind of, I spend a lot of my day liaising with influencers that I've found, or maybe my company has worked with previously, to just kind of form a relationship with, see, what we can come up with. The best influencers I find are the ones that kind of have ideas already or have a personal connection to the brand. And Sportchek doesn't necessarily go after the influencers that have, 1 million followers. Like some of the people that we work with have 2,000, and maybe they just are a big fan of the company. And I find that's what really resonates with the consumer. I think,
Totally.
We've kind of had a bit of a change in what we see on Instagram, and people can kind of see through the ads. And we never want our stuff to be seen as an ad. We really want our product and our brand to speak to the person who would actually be looking for it. Like we want, we really do want to have our products speak for Canadians, and it's truly built for life in Canada. So that's kind of what I work on. And I think everyone in Canada has had somewhat of a connection to any of our banners. Before that, this job, I actually worked on the internal side, and I worked for a law firm here in Canada, but they're actually a global law firm. And my job was quite different. I worked mostly internal communications, which is, it's a huge industry in itself. And it's something I don't think I even knew very much about when I was in school, that it was even an option. But large companies, they have full internal communications teams. They work a lot in employee communications. They work a lot with HR. They work a lot on messaging from the CEOs or any leader for that matter. They usually run those messages by their internal communications teams, or anytime there's like a new tool being introduced to the firm. Like maybe you're getting a new travel provider, for example. So the communications teams are usually, I always say they're like the question askers. Like if I don't understand it, no one else will understand it. So I feel like we definitely field, and we're kind of that barometer for, are we even really getting across the message that we want to get across? And all throughout school, I always did some sort of job on the side. I always thought, I guess I never really saw a part-time job as just a job to throw away. I really feel like you can learn something from any job that will apply to your career. So I worked in retail. I worked actually for Lululemon for years. And I feel like I've learned the most from that job that pertains to my current role in anything. So I never ever want, I guess good advice would be, don't see your part-time job just as like a passerby, because those skills truly do translate, and you never know where you'll end up. You may end up working for that company in some way, maybe on the professional side one day. I know people that have even worked. I have a girl that I've connected with who worked at Earl's as a server for years, and now she works in internal communications for Earl's. So I guess you just never know where your path may end up, and it may be something you never even thought of.
That's excellent point, because it's like, if anything, what you're doing is you're starting from the down up, and you're understanding the nitty gritty of, the customer service side of like, at the end result, what is it that the customer is receiving? And so and then I feel like, it makes complete sense that from that you could go internal and say, okay, this is what we need to be doing differently, or this is what we're doing well. So great advice for the viewers, right? Don't leverage your part-time jobs. You will learn something.
Sure.
You never know. And I know, like, I work with people in my current team that worked in store, and they made such a big impression and a big splash that they've now been pulled onto, the corporate side. So you never know. And I feel like communications is one of those jobs that definitely looks for that. I mean, I even saw the other day that the new CEO of Aritzia has worked for the company since it started, and she was literally a sales clerk, and now she's running the whole company herself. Like, that is that's so cool.
I didn't even know that.
I don't think that people think about that very often. They kind of like, well, I'm working this, and then one day I'm going to do this, and so this isn't like forever. But you never know.
I was the same way for sure.
Everyone goes through that. You're like, I just want to get to that like high-end job immediately. Like, no, you don't know. Everything leads to another opportunity. So that's a great point. And so I'm just curious, in terms of advice that you have received, kind of jumping back to like the mentorship side of, you said you've sought mentors, or you sought mentors in the past. What was the best advice that you received within communications, or even outside of communications, that really, I guess, either helped you grow professionally, personally, anything along the lines that you think should be passed on? You should connect with, or you should ask questions to the person that has the job that you would ideally like. I feel like you can learn so much from their journey and their path. I think the other one is just to always ask questions. Don't ever feel like it's a stupid, or you're like, you don't want to come off as like dumb, or like maybe in a large meeting. I feel like, especially on Teams, a lot of people are afraid to, chime in and speak. But I feel like everybody is thinking that. Everybody's scared from high level to low level, and they're kind of just waiting for the one person to break the ice. I feel like, especially in communications, like I touched on, half of my job is asking questions. Like I said, like if I don't understand, no one else is going to understand, like a consumer, an internal client, anyone. So just don't be afraid. Like the simplest of things, like, do I have to download this in an app store? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just ask those simple questions as if you were physically doing the action yourself. Just never stop learning. I think especially if you're doing external communications or marketing, there is literally no guidebook to TikTok. the only way to learn TikTok is to be on TikTok.
Right. That's actually true.
So you truly have to
Exactly.
immerse yourself in the platforms that you use to understand it and have your finger on the pulse of trends, what's changing. If you want to work in PR or external comms, like you really need to be on those apps yourself and
Right.
consuming that content every day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the first time I think I've heard the advice of consume the content, be on those, as opposed to take a break off. But in this case, it's educational, right?
It is.
You're completely
It's
right.
work.
It's work. It's your job, right? And so that's a good way to be on those apps and actually be doing work while on there, I guess. And
I had to
learning.
turn off all the settings of like, you've been on this for an hour. It's like, oh, it's work.
It's work.
It's
Like
work,
you
it's
don't
work.
this next puppy video, I swear to God, it's work. Like, I fully understand. I mean, maybe you could write the guidebook at some point, right?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I'm still
on it.
learning.
If you're still, well, I mean, you're learning, but you're clearly succeeding. And actually, I have a quick follow-up on the projects question. So in your experiences, what do you find like specific within communications, right? A little bit more technical. What are some pitfalls that people maybe do either as like a communications methodology, or what are some things that people could do maybe as to succeed in communication? So if you're in university, you're putting together a communications plan for a project or a school project of some sort, what is something that you recommend, like, hey, you should definitely include this, like this is a really good tactic to use, or don't do this? Any advice in that area?
I mean, just in the number one, I mean, it sounds so easy and simple, but you do need to be a strong writer.
Right.
You need to read what you are doing 10 times. Like I
For sure.
read and I will still miss something. Like you truly need to check your work.
Yep.
I find in my internal communications job, I'd say like I was a part-time proofreader. Like our whole team would pass it through, before it even went out, it'd pass through probably 5 hands, and we'd each read it so many times, and like still, like it kills me, but like things still slip.
Yeah.
And I'd say if you were applying for a job and you are not reading your resume like 20 times, you will not get hired.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but have you ever looked back at your old resumes and you're like, how could I have done this and sent this out?
I feel like sometimes people get so excited to just apply that they're not, like, you're applying for a communications job. Your resume should be so perfect. It is like your best example of why you're a great fit for the job.
Yeah.
I would say just get used to reading things a million times and looking for the flaws. I find also with a lot of communications jobs, you're going to be doing writing tests, or you're going to have to submit samples of your work. So if you're doing a project in school that you think you did a great job on, maybe you had to do a communications plan, I would keep those and have them on hand for when companies are asking for a sample or maybe a portfolio. I've had to kind of curate, and you'll definitely have to, if you're keeping them from your past work, you'll have to like scrub information and things like that, but people will get the basic idea. But I did actually submit in my early days, past projects, and especially my senior seminars. Like, it's such a good thing to keep on hand and not just throw away when the course is done. And you'll never know when you'll need it. So I'd say those are 2 kind of key ones.
No, that's a good point, especially if you're sending in a resume or a cover letter. Like, I mean, for any job, right? As we talked about before, any industry communications is helpful, right? But this is an example of your work.
Yes. And like, don't be afraid to get creative. Like, I would say if you're applying to a company that is maybe like an accounting firm in an internal communications position, that's a professional resume. That's going to be definitely black and white and, very professional.
Right.
But if you're applying to something maybe a little bit more on the creative side, don't be afraid to make your resume creative. I know that Canva has some really great free options to kind of like make a more creative and artistic resume. But I wouldn't necessarily use that resume to apply for, an accounting firm or a law firm. So I would tailor your resume to the position.
We love Canva at Howty University. We use it for everything. So
no student rate.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yep.
I know. But yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting to hear like how you can actually customize it based on the company that you're reaching out to. Cause I mean, within business and communications, obviously, again, so huge in business, but within business, depending on the firm, like it's most of the time just very professional, right? There isn't a lot of room. And I'll share a quick story here. I remember my first resume that I think rendition that I had my mom proofread it, and she's in the business industry, but I guess like a few generations back in terms of what resumes should look like. And she told me to include my profile picture within my resume.
Yes, my dad always says that too.
and I remember handing it to the person I was networking with, and they were like, wow, I've never seen someone's picture on their resume. And I just like died inside. So it was a great learning experience.
It's like when your mom or dad goes, just print off some resumes and hand them out, or like drop them off the front desk. Like, no.
That like it sometimes works. I mean, that's how they got their jobs, right? So it can work.
Totally.
You never know, as we talked about, but
exactly.
No, personally, I didn't even bother going to my parents about it. Because my parents just they had schooling from a different country, so it just like even with that it was different. But like speaking of the resume side, I guess like my question to that was, what kind of resume do you see with an internal communications job, if you're looking for something like that?
I think for your communications job, it depends on how junior you are. If you're just starting out and this is like your first job in your field, I would list, any relevant job experience, like I touched on earlier, like any job, even if it's retail, maybe you had some communications experience, like pull those pieces out. Like maybe you helped write a marketing brief, maybe you wrote some emails to some customers, maybe you handled some difficult client situations, or customer relations. Like those are all relevant skills that you can tie in. So don't feel like you're applying with nothing. Even if you're working like as a server, or maybe like there's truly anything like you can pull from. And I would also list some relevant courses that you have taken in your time at school that you would like to call out to the employer. Like maybe you did a senior seminar in internal communications, maybe you did a course on public speaking, maybe you did a high-level English course. Those are all things that I would also, list on there, just especially if it's your first job. And I think that as an internal communications position, the space where you can truly shine is your cover letter. This is such a great opportunity for you to demonstrate your writing abilities. And maybe I always say it's like your call out to things that you're writing in the resume that you didn't have the chance to elaborate on. So those are those pieces that you can say, like, I'm really excited to begin my communications experience for your company. I really love this XYZ about your company. And in my current job, maybe I was working at Sportchek. I handled some difficult customer conversations. I was a great problem solver. I'm looking to take the next step in my career. Like there's always things you can pull from, because I just feel like I get emails a lot from people saying, how do I break in? And you just do it. And I promise you will have some relevant experience to pull from.
I feel like now you can just link them to this podcast. Like, just listen here. I explain everything.
That's another good one. Another good one.
Right here.
Right here. Exactly. No, that's awesome. I'm curious. So you brought up a really great point. And in regards to experiences, and we've talked about it, obviously, about how you can learn from all your experiences, but is there anything that maybe a student in university, say their first year, right, getting your first internship can be challenging, and maybe you are working part-time as a server or a part-time anywhere else. What else can a student maybe do to, I guess, grow their skills, develop their skills, grow their experiences, build up a database of experiences to put on their resume? Maybe something you've done in the past or you've seen others do that you think is really interesting.
So for me, I was actually one of those people that really struggled to find some communications work out of school. I think it was a tough time, just coming out of a recession, and like the economy just wasn't booming the way you would hope. So I actually, kind of tying in, I asked around to my bosses in my part-time jobs, like, what could I do? And I didn't even ask like a broad question. I was literally like, I want some communications experience. I would love to start a blog. for our company, or I would love to take our website on. Like, can I have a hand in rewriting our website? I think that if you can't find something external, you can truly look where you currently are. I bet you will find some work that you can pull from. Like, I worked at a fitness studio and I wrote blogs on nutrition. I wrote blogs on some fitness trends or things that you could, and it was just all creative writing. And I actually did use that as examples when I was applying for courses or applying for work. So that's just an example there. I would say, look where you are. You will find something. And I don't ask broadly, like, pick the thing that you want to do and go to your boss and say, I really think I can take our social media to the next level. Would you give me a couple months and prove it to you? And you let me know, and then we can maybe discuss further. Just, shoot your shot, and I bet you'll be able to find something. I think even if you saw a company that you're really passionate about, maybe it's a fitness studio, maybe it's like a coffee shop that you love, and maybe you think their social media can be taken to the next level, ask if you could do it for free, part-time. And if you're doing a great job after a couple months, then maybe they'll hire you on as a part-time social media manager. There's definitely things that you can pull from. Don't be afraid to just put yourself out there.
For sure. No, I think that's an excellent point to actually end off with, Madison. I think you just summarized it perfectly. And just even with your own experience, you're saying, yeah, I just went to my manager and was like, hey, give me a shot. What the worst can happen is that they say no, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lesson for anyone listening to this or anyone looking to break into the communications industry. But before I thank our viewers for watching and all of that, I just want to say, Madison, do you have any last words of wisdom for anyone? Anything you want, if they have one thing to take away from this podcast, what would that be?
Oh gosh.
The pressure's on.
I would just say, just never stop learning. Like, you will never get better if you don't acknowledge that there's always more to learn. I'm still learning every day. I'm still taking courses as I see them. There's so much free content out there that you can consume to better yourself, even aside from your, traditional schooling. And that's for any degree. Like, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn courses, like free LinkedIn courses on resume help, or in any way that you can use. You can get free content. Google Analytics, there's free courses. Like, just anything that you can do to beef up your resume, you can do from your computer. So that's I'd say my big one.
Your big one. Beef up your resume through this. Okay, well then, thank you so much, Madison, for taking the time to chat with us and come onto the How to University podcast. I'm sure the viewers will learn a ton from you. And again, apologies in advance if you get a lot of LinkedIn invites, but I think from your messaging, I think people have definitely learned a lot. So we appreciate all the advice you've given.
Thank you so much, the two of you, and you're doing a great thing. I really wish I had that when I was in school. So you're doing great work.
Thank you
very much.